Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time, like a little book club for music. I'm PD Rave, and I'm here with y'all, myself, yourself. It's your cell. Here with me, it's them cell. My crew, my party, my gang, my quorum, my fellow record breakers. We've got David.
Multivitamin supplements.
We've got Drew. Mm-hmm. And we've got Brett.
I'm out of props. I was trying to find something that I could like a Gary Newman or Paul Hardcastle like thing that I could hold on to. Or
I also realized my bit doesn't play for audio.
Whose average age was 19. Yeah.
I've got a rubber band ball.
I mean, there's so much to say in this episode. There's so much to say.
Yes, so
none of it is good enough for this intro. No stingers for me.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna put this before the show. Or the ad break.
Yes, or the ad break. We're here to talk about music. We're here to talk about an album, and the provider of the album this week is none other than David. David, what have you brought for us this week?
On the last exciting episode of the Record Breakers podcast, PD Rave was back on his K-pop bullshit. This episode,
I was there. I remember that. Yeah.
I am back on my prog rock bullshit. Or
yes, you are.
Or am I?
I was going to say, are you though?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Prog rock adjacent.
Yeah.
This is an album from an artist who I think I can honestly say is now officially my art pop rock guy. Steven Wilson, former frontman of the band Porcupine Tree, one of the great progressive rock / metal bands of the modern era, 5.1 album remixer of repute, along with his entire musical career, whether it was Bass Communion, No Man, Blackfield, Storm Corrosion, the aforementioned Porcupine Tree, has now entered his solo career. Not so much doing any heavy progressive rock anymore. He's kind of landed in this space that is art poppy, synthy, electronic-y stuff with some progressive rock, Pink Floyd-y DNA that he just can't escape, because none of us prog nerds really can ever. With the brand new album, The Future Bites. Mm-hmm. It's about consumerism, everybody.
Yeah.
Is it bad? Is it good? Wilson himself says, we'll leave that up to you.
He says, buy his album.
Yes. Useless or not? Useless or not? You decide.
Thanks, sorted.
Let's ask about expectations from the other guys. Let's see. Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
So Steve Wilson's a name that hit something in the back of my head, and I couldn't remember why. But I knew that Deej said this was concept, and it was in the prog thing. I was expecting a bit more metal than I got, I think. And by I think, I mean I was expecting a lot more metal than I got.
Don't do that.
Fair.
But
he's even said himself, we're not doing prog right now. We're not doing that right now.
And that's fine. But I was also expecting well produced, well thought out, and some good thought to it. And the mention of this album came after BTI. So I was expecting maybe a little bit of a darker with slight hope look at the current state of humans with technology, and how those intertwine. I got that, and a lot. It was a lot, guys. It was a lot. This album was a lot.
Yeah. Brett, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
I mean, when I see Steven Wilson, I think of the guy I went to school with, and like I can't attach it to any other human. So of course I search it, and I'm like, okay, this has the smell of something from across the pond. And then I look a little further, and I like scroll to the bottom of it. I accidentally see the credits, and I see Elton's on it, and then I was like, oh crap! And then I scroll back up, and I'm like, wait, this is the guy from that. So again, I came in expecting some prog. I expected there to be more to these funny sounds. There was less of that, but I looked. This is a very successful album. Even here, it charted. It was very successful over there. No fucking clue about this album, so I came in here pretty fresh, and like completely misled by both my knowledge of what Deej listens to and also by the work of Steve in the past.
Mm-hmm.
One of these days, I'm going to give you guys that is something that's completely on brand, but maybe not being on brand is my brand. I don't know.
Yeah. It's that double, triple, quadruple negative that doubles back on itself. Becomes
hashtag meta breakers.
Exactly.
And is somehow still a Dream Theater album.
Yeah.
Yes. I wasn't sure exactly what to assume or expect about what was to come with this album. But I was curious, because we did have Porcupine Tree, and he did provide that context. So I wasn't sure what we were getting into. I had some assumption, but they kind of were broken as we kind of get into discuss what the album actually is. But yeah, I was definitely expecting something conceptual and something that goes for something. It goes for a big overarching idea, but I got more than that too. David, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements you would bring up?
I would bring up the themes and elements of the idea that you can still make an album of music that doesn't exactly have a message one way or the other, and it allows the listener to interpret it for themselves. Wilson in interviews has said that this is neither a negative or positive on consumerism. It's not necessarily saying thing is bad or thing is good, but thing exists. So it's a little bit on the nose with some of the songs here. In regards to the music itself, if you are a fan of Porcupine Tree, you're not going to get a lot of that. You might hear some of Blackfield, and you might hear some of kind of the earlier pop hook Porcupine Tree songs, because Porcupine Tree's earlier stuff wasn't nearly as heavy, and there were plenty of shorter songs and pop hooks and a lot of Steven Wilson's layered atmospheric vocals, which you'll get on this album. In between bits and pieces of electropop, some funky synth stuff, and the occasional acoustic guitar arrangement that would probably fit pretty well on some of the earlier Steven Wilson solo albums. I think To the Bone would probably have some pretty good fits on here as well, and even some of the earlier Porcupine Tree albums. I think that there's some things here that will probably have fit well on Stupid Dream. Probably not The Incident or Fear of a Blank Planet, but I would say everything before In Absentia. Some things here wouldn't be totally out of the realm of early Porcupine Tree, or even some of Steven Wilson's pop stuff from like No Man, which was around just as long as Porcupine Tree. So the idea of shifting between genres while still kind of having this progressive rock core is about as on brand as it gets for me, but you get my point. There's some things going on here that might be a little tough for the diehard prog rockers out there, but Wilson himself said it best. If you are willing to listen to a third-rate prog rock band over a first-rate act in any other genre, well, I really don't have any time for you at all.
Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, to me, it's hard. Because this album is kind of nuts. Looking it up and finding he was from Porcupine Tree definitely like put me in a certain mindset, knowing what I've known from him. But one thing I would definitely say on this one, get a good pair of headphones. I usually will say, like, on albums that are dense musically, get a good pair of speakers or headphones. I think headphones is the way to go with this one. It's set up very much like a lot of the tracks to be very introspective, and I think the music sort of plays into that a bit. Finding out that this man has dabbled in quadraphonics in a live setting, which is
shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Like, I saw that.
He has remixed every album from the 70s to 5.1. Every album. Look it up.
It's insane to me. Like, knowing what goes behind live sound and the fact that he could even pull that off to have that noted in Wikipedia is nuts. And this coming off of not last album, but the album before, Because of the Internet, it does lyrically leave you with a lot to be desired in sort of what he is trying to say behind it. I think the music at times, and what he is mentioning, very much puts it in a darker territory for me personally than Because the Internet did. BTI towards the end sort of almost leaves on this hopeful note, and then possibly death happens. This one, I was left without that, but then again, it's looking at a slightly different topic, right? Musically, there's a lot going on. There is electronic, like, I could hear some of these, like, I could think of these tracks in, like, a rave setting at certain points. I could think of, oh, hey, like, this crazy...
Noted raver, like, Drew.
Noted raver, me.
Yes.
You can get any nerd on a dance floor if there's also, like, furries and anime nerds in the crowd, because conventions happen.
Oh, well.
Deej knows what I'm talking about. Anime
Tune into Fanthropology, everybody.
Cross promotion. But there's obvious pop influence. I mean, Elton John's on a track, for Christ's sakes. There's also this, like, tone to it that almost has, like, without losing the dance electronica sort of stuff, gets into, like, a grungy industrial sort of feel, like, in tone, not in instrumentation, obviously. The synths get dark. It's something where, like, this album explores a lot sonically and goes a lot of different places to... I didn't... Like, usually on an album, I can pick up broad strokes first time and then nitpick the next time. I listened to this album, like, 5 times, and I think I was still picking up some, like, broad strokes, like, within the mix the 3rd and 4th time. Like, it's kind of a dense album musically, which is awesome for a more pop-centric dance sort of feel. Makes it more interesting.
Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
Weird. In one word, it's weird. Like lots of stereo effects and modulation going on. So like,
there's some theremin for you, Brett.
There's guitar, there's piano, there's vocals, there's all of it going through the effects. Like everything has got the weird knob. They're turning it. And like even down to like some glitching effects. There's a lot of use of delays. Like and yeah, there's a whole lot of that going on. But you can see a lot of influence here. Like there's some definite like Thomas Dolby, like Gary Newman feel to some of this stuff, including sometimes the placement of spoken word or female sung vocals. I will bring that back up, but like yeah, there's some of that. There's always a driving beat, but yeah, the stereo effects are what really stuck with me because yeah, I listen to a lot of music with headphones because that's the most neutral thing that I have to listen to music on. That's got some sort of there's no acoustically neutral place in this home. So I listened to it there, and I was like, I was trying to pick at some of the stuff because like yeah, there's more to it than just like stereo effects going on. There's like there's some weird like the sound of if you've ever Drew, have you ever like known a guy you've been playing with who's got a Fender or a guitar that has spring reverb in it, and they accidentally like shake their guitar amp or do it on purpose to make the springs rattle? Yeah, like that
My
reverb.
father.
Yeah, or yeah.
My father has a Stratocaster, and sometimes he'll just go and do the weird springy thing. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. There's some of that going on. Like I don't know what the hell it actually was, but it was some of that. And like describing sounds with words, it's difficult. But yeah, synthesizers everywhere. You got synthesizers here, there, on the voice. You got like everything from Life After Love levels of vocal edit modifications, modulations to like. The endless sustain and reverbs and stuff. It's got some like things going. But when we get into tracks, also this is probably lyrically as close to a Dead Kennedys album as we've hit so far, which is crazy because it sounds nothing like a Dead Kennedys album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I definitely hear that on that point. It does get it weird in like how it approaches a lot of the things and the tones here and there. I definitely hear like I definitely understand what Drew was talking about with like the grunge industrial tone or attitude. I think I'll say attitude more than necessarily sound. There are parts where it kind of makes me think of Filter. Like on some parts,
I was thinking of Muse sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it'll go Muse, sometimes it was like Filter, and then sometimes
neither of those
Pink
things
Floyd.
are bad.
Yeah, and sometimes it's Pink Floyd. Like it's like
very British.
Yeah,
very
British. very
Bye for England. Bye for England.
Very England, very British, very UK, very British
Are
Isles.
you all having a giraffe?
Yes. It is. It pulls from those sources and it does it really well. And yeah, it's tight. It has a tight pop. I want to say philosophy, but it does it with the attitude and the approach of somebody making like somebody who comes from the prog world, where it's like it's tight pop songwriting and synth pop and electro pop. Use like tools. It's using those tools with the brain of a prog guy, like
science,
and it does it really well. It puts it together really well. And it's definitely just tight.
Petey likes it tight, everybody.
Yeah. let's get into some of the key tracks. David, what would be some of the key tracks to focus on?
Okay, I think that the song 12 Things I Forgot is a song that I interpret as Steven Wilson talking to the prog fans. Lyrically, there are a couple of lines in here about talking about complaining about how things used to be, literally saying things were better in the 80s. Most specifically, the people that plague his Facebook page, just endlessly whining and moaning about how there aren't enough guitars anymore. And, that's sad. Get over it.
There aren't enough guitars anymore.
Yes.
Eminent Sleaze, the song that tells you inside of the mind of a salesman how to make the deal, how to make the sale, and how to maybe even make the scam. Man of the People has a little bit of a Welcome to the Machine vibe, but I think this one is more about a politician. It's kind of got that story where it's someone who is above everyone else, but still tries to show authenticity. Of course, the centerpiece of the album, Personal Shopper, and its wild-ass music video. Yes, everyone, that is, in fact, Sir Elton John. And if you can have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to have Elton John on your album and to have him do spoken word, you do it. You just do that. And the entire 9-minute song is just kind of this bizarre experience of everything from electro pop to spoken word to almost prog that just kind of goes all over the place and just is really, really fun. And just I get a kick out of the hook every time I hear it. And you hear little beeps and bloops in the chorus that are just really a lot of fun. Lastly, Follower. It's spunky. It's got energy. And it's got some antagonistic lyrics around the idea of the personality cult that I can really get down with. I fucks with it.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, for me, making sure my mic was on. Starting with Unself and then into Self. Like DJM said, there's a certain amount of what you think about the situation that you bring to this. But it's this opening seems sort of unsettling in a way. Not bad, not good, not sad. Unsettling is the overwhelming emotion I got from these two tracks, which I might mean I need to go see a therapist if Unself and Self made me think weird, unsettling horror, but that's maybe a bit into my psyche. Personal Shopper. One, Deej said it. You have Elton John. Elton John's a fucking treasure. But songs over 5 minutes. I've said before, songs over 5 minutes need to make me forget they're over 5 minutes, especially when they're this over 5 minutes. But this track is just so incredibly interesting on so many different levels. I didn't even notice it until I was sitting back making notes oh yeah, this track does hit for a while, doesn't it? And then the end, the Count of Unease. It's almost a beautiful heavenly feel to the ending of this. The two sort of weird existential albums we've had within the past month end on this sort of heavenly note in a way, which I think is great and sort of says something about I think how we gotta look at the situation and that the better will come.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
All right, 42 minutes and 1 second, and they still fit a 9-minute something and 50-second song. But we'll get to that. But first, Eminent Sleaze. I want to tip of the hat. Follower. The piano effects, some anti-consumerism lyrics, and that one stood out as the most Jello Biafra esque in the field that I on face value. But personal shopper, first off, Elton John. I guess that's why they call it the blues. Famous man.
No, Rocket Man.
The crocodile rocking around the clock. That is pretty nice that if you have access to Elton John, that you're like, hey, say some words. Don't sing them. Don't dress up like a duck. Don't hammer on some piano. Don't just say some stuff. As a very old man of music, that's cool. But it opens up with the Wicca Chicka that's phasing in and out. I don't know how to explain phasing, telephone and radio. Radio does some phasing still, AM radio. There's some weird phasing noises, but it's kind of that's going on at the same time as you're getting the Knight Rider theme. But the whole that
I love the Knight Rider theme passionately.
Knight Rider's a classic, not only in theme but in show.
Well, I mean, but it's that era of drum machine that you hit into delay, and it's tick 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 tick. It's that, and it's really neat. And then the static starts coming in with some fuzz. There's some definite some noise stuff going on, but I swear to God, I cannot, when I hear some female vocals, very very melodramatically singing vocals, all I can think of is Paul Hardcastle and the average age of Vietnam vet deaths being 19, and that vocal little segment of 19, but it's very it calls back to an era that was not around. I had some very strong so in 2013, when we were talking what was I listening to when we started doing this show, it was the music that kind of inspired this. Your guy standing at a synthesizer, Thomas Dolby or Gary Newman. This song, I am happy that there are people that are carrying that feel of a song. It felt like a time travel, but with way better equipment, to that sound. But it also did other things, and it's almost 10 minutes long. It kind of gives you a journey. This album was weird. I still don't even I guess.
Brett, are you okay?
If you
do
prog rock, I'm just it's hard to explain what would a guy who's already been in a prog rock band do? Because that's like you bought your midlife crisis car first, and then then what do you do? You're but it's not even my midlife yet. And I guess this is it, man.
It's like partying and going to conventions in your 30s instead of your 20s.
There was an amount of time put into, so when this noise bounces back, when we get that bounce back, do we want the chime to go up or to go down? Okay, on the second time it echoes back, do we want that to sound as clear or a little different? Somebody went through that much trouble to make this sound. There's some definite somebody spent a lot of time layering the effects in this in a way that I appreciate, but it's a lot.
It's like if you put a jazz musician in a group that's not playing jazz, they're gonna find a way to noodle. They're just gonna find it.
Yeah,
and that's why you
know. Yeah.
That's why you put them there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want Victor Wooten in a ska band, and I want Victor tomorrow.
Victor Wooten, country music. Let's take over Nashville with the Wootens. I would be there.
Yes. Yeah. As you guys pretty much touched on all the songs that I would touch on, but yeah, Unself and Self, I would take it as a whole and say that it's just a killer intro. Jumping to the most prominent, yeah, Personal Shopper. That's where like I got the most Floyd-esque vibes in certain parts, especially like the spoken word parts. I think with certain Elton John. That's the vibe I got.
How can you have any pudding, Petey, if you haven't eaten your meat?
Exactly.
But make sure you go to the store and spend all your money on that meat.
Yes, exactly.
Right,
12 things I forgot is where I got the filter vibes in particular. They're throughout, but like there's certain parts in like the vocals and the tone and like in the vibe just around it that made me think of Filter and particularly like Filter and Crystal Method, the song they did together, the version of Trip Like I Do that they did together. There's something, it's not the same sound. It's not the same sound musically, but there's certain moments that have a vibe that reminds me of that. And even things like Eminent Sleaze or songs that just hook you in with the songwriting, and those would be, you get pretty much like touching on everything you guys touched on. But let's bring it back around the horn and talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Sorry, talking to a musician friend of mine, which is weird. A rapper. The thing about this album, and we've all kind of said it, is that there's a lot going on here musically with genres that are getting mixed together that usually don't have a lot going on musically. I think it's better for it. It also says a lot, and like the best art, it doesn't tell you how to feel about it. It just lays out the perspective that the artist is seeing of the situation and says, what do you see here? It's a Rorschach test. I think I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
I'm bad at pronouncing things.
Rorschach tests.
Right. Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah, yes. Yes, that's the Shire of Worcestershire.
It's something where if you go into it looking to have an answer, you're not necessarily going to get it. If you look in going to feel good, you're not necessarily going to get it either.
Welcome to Record Breakers, where we ask you to listen to stuff that you're not going to have answers to and you might not like.
Well,
just listen to it.
Here's the thing. I don't know. It's one of those albums where I think most people I suggest it to would enjoy listening to it. Like, they would enjoy the process of listening to it and what they got out of it. But I don't know who I would do that to. Just because it's so different from everything else. It's almost exclusively like other musicians. Like, hey, Squiggles, you should definitely listen to this one.
I mean, yeah.
But he's already
I'm not a musician.
I'm not a musician. Like, what is this, like Tears
but you
for
hung
Fears?
around in the prog circle enough. Like, it's an osmosis thing at that point.
I really have.
It's like if you hang around with a bunch of people who paint, eventually you're going to understand the differences in, like, color composition. Like,
yeah, you learned color theory by hanging out with,
I still don't know how I'm able to. I still don't know how I'm able to understand time signatures and polyrhythms, but I do. I don't know how, but I do.
That said, this album was phenomenal. But it's one of those ones where, like, listening to it in the background is great, but, like, actively listening to it is a whole different experience. Like, it's like a wise man once said, it's like an onion. It's got layers.
Yes. and it makes you cry, and you can't bite into it
caramelizes
directly.
But it's very aromatic. It's great for aromatics.
Some smells good in there.
And it's best to slice it lengthways, and then across those lengths, and then you chop down, and then that's how you get the.
You don't crush it, so you don't release as many of the yeah. None of us cook like for a living, but we've watched people else do it, and we've learned.
Yes. Yes.
We're all
we're normal.
Yes, we're normals. No chefs here. All normals.
Bam.
Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
It's weird. I listen to this album a lot, and a lot of the times, in my listens, I would forget that I was listening to an album for the show, and it just be this noise in my ear of kind of like chill vibey grooves, and then what am I listening? Wait a minute, those are words that are definitely not chill out and have fun lyrics. But I guess you could. I'm not gonna tell you how to live. I can't exactly say whether or not I enjoyed my time with the album. I don't know if I think I got the desired effect of the album, but this is not necessarily for everyone. It's probably up my alley more than the average bear. But I would say that if you come in with an open mind and you're if you're okay with something that has a good groove to it and you don't give a shit about lyrics, this is great. If you give the most shit about lyrics, you might have something here too. But you have to be into some groove. And open your heart, open your mind, and open your heart for a little weird. You just got to be prepared for it. Let the weird in, and you'll enjoy this album. If you can't open your heart to the weird, this might not be for you.
Open your heart. Let the groove in, because groove is in the heart.
Exactly.
That's right.
But it might get weird.
Mm-hmm. It might get weird. This is to conclude on this album. This is an album that is definitely up your alley if you are up in, like DJM, up in that prog goodness, but are also open minded to pop sensibilities. I think a lot of people can get at least get an enjoyment out of this album, and should at least give it a shot. Because I think that it's tight enough, and it has enough really good songwriting that you'll at least enjoy your time listening to it, even if not all of it hooks you. So I definitely think it's worth recommending out to people that are willing to listen to some atypical electronic pop sounds from somebody with a brain wired for a whole different genre that is looking to expand. So I think that this album, it's tight, it's well written, it goes weird places, but ultimately it's really fun. At least it was for me. It just gets you the headphone experience, just kind of get it into your ears and just enclose your head in it.
Bounce around up in that.
Yeah, and I think it works well that way. And it's an album definitely worth checking out. But yeah, last but not least, David, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
I was not expecting to like this album at all because Wilson's last solo album, To the Bone, it had been the album with the most pop sensibilities in his catalog to date as a solo artist. And I gave it one complete listen and then completely forgot about it. The concept of the album leading up to it really put me off. I don't know why, but this was originally planned to come out in 2020, but it got delayed because of the pandemic. And I guess pre-pandemic, I was not in the headspace for it. As we are still in the pandemic, I'm definitely in a better headspace for this kind of album. As I said to Drew on a couple of episodes back for Because the Internet, I think that this is a good time capsule post to Because the Internet. I think that this is a good outlook on what happened because of the internet, not doing things because the internet, but post because the internet, post Black Mirror, post algorithm, all praise to the algorithm. And it really hit me in the right spot conceptually. And Steven Wilson has this reputation of kind of turning his nose up to everyone. And at the time, I kind of thought like that. And that can be a little bit off-putting from one prog snob to another. That can be a little bit off-putting. But in the interviews promoting this album, he said that first and foremost, he still loves that style of music. But that's just not really where he's at right now. And I get that. In many ways, the same way people feel like about the David Bowies of the world, the Peter Gabriels of the world. For me, that is Steven Wilson. He's my guy in many, many ways. He's that
your
guy.
Peter Gabriel?
that is so on the nose. I can't even begin to say how on the nose that is.
A fool.
That is way more on the nose than Sledgehammer. That is way more on the nose than a Sledgehammer reference, and we don't even have time to get into it.
Is Steven Wilson your Brian Wilson?
No, because he hasn't lost his mind. I don't think.
Lying in bed.
I love a concept album, and this is a concept album-ass concept album. This is highfalutin from one of my favorite musical minds in the world.
Highfalutin, so high.
And I love the fact that I have enjoyed this album as much as I did. It is my favorite piece of work from him since Porcupine Tree's 2007 album, Fear of a Blank Planet, which was also pretty high concept AF. It's also their heaviest album, by far. Mm-hmm. I think this is probably his best solo effort since The Raven That Refused to Sing and Other Stories. And I think that this is a good album for looking at things as they are right now. I think, and it's okay to do that. I know that right now there's a lot of just kind of wanting to escape and forget how things are right now. I disagree. And yeah, consumerism, it's a thing.
Yeah.
We live in a society.
Now.
Do we?
We
if Deej comes in here in like Joker face paint, I'm leaving.
We do be living in a society, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are our thoughts on Steven Wilson's The Future Bites. You can of course find it on our Spotify playlist. Unlike right now, last week's record, because of fucking Cacao M, they pulled. The distributor of Dreamcatcher's album is strong-arming Spotify. Spotify came into the Korean market, and they have their own streamer there. So I'm like, and they freaking Thanos snapped half of K-pop off of Spotify, which is fascinating. But that tangent aside, just in case you want to know why it's not there, this album will be on our Spotify playlist, algorithm willing. Also on that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and it'll be provided by Brett. Brett, what have you got for next week?
Oh, I mean, I hope this is on Spotify. We're gonna have to hope, because guys, we're doing it. We're gonna listen to both the G side and the R side of Appetite for Destruction.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, Guns N' Roses. The Guns and the Roses.
We have I know that we have some opinions in this room. We can talk about this album and the fact that it has a G side and an R side.
Yes. But that'll be.
You just want me to get hated on the internet.
I mean, not everybody can, like, now that you're Silhouette Drew, like, you can get your snake dance going real good, and nobody will know who you are when you're doing your bad Axel, like, because, like,
yeah, a lot of our lighting is backlighting, and
Yes.
That's how it works. I
was thinking about bringing down the ring light, but the ring light is all the way upstairs, and I'm lazy.
Oh, you could just like all you need to do is get like a light bulb and put some like you need to have like the Venetian blinds behind you and a vocoder and come in like this, and like, you know, like we're hearing the scoop
Spoilers,
of Guns N' Roses spoilers. Yeah.
I can help you download VoiceMod. I'm sure there's a Mac version for it. I don't.
Sounded like fucking Corpse Husband.
Yes.
Or the Alexa that Petey can ask, hey, is play Appetite for Destruction? No, not the re-recorded version.
No.
Alexa, play Chinese Democracy.
Alexa, who is Buckethead?
Oh God, Alexa, no, stop.
No. That being said,
you deserve that.
That was hoisted by thine own petard. The
petard's being foisted.
Yes. But yes. That will be next week, and this is this week, and you can of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at HeyBDBird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at Extrusive I'm at PD Rave. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. I'm working on having us have a full week schedule. Kind of have some more free time nowadays. So
the Cartoon Express.
But the main core schedule is still Tuesdays we do Dungeons and Dragons. Wednesdays we do Record Breakers live. We record live, where you can come hang out with us and discuss what we're talking about in the chat. We also do Space Truckin' on Thursdays.
Honk honk.
Where we're nowadays playing Starbound. As long as the Xbox Live services stay up. The algorithm willing, we're playing that, and aside from that, we're also doing kind of like Let's Play series on Fridays where we kind of go through the campaign of a single player game, some cool story driven game, and maybe some mess around on Mondays. But those 3 days are definitely the core schedule, and we have more around that. But yeah, the follow us on there on Twitch and YouTube and things like that.
What was that Twitch title again, Petey?
Rebelli TV, right here. If you're watching in the video, it's right there behind me. Follow, like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Did we do the haikus?
Oh, wait.
No.
No, we didn't do the haikus.
No.
That's why I was like, did I miss a meeting? Are we cutting the haikus now? Like, what's going on? But I didn't want to say anything because, like,
throw back to the days where I would forget haikus. Let's get down to the main event of the evening. Main event of the evening, where the moment we've all been waiting for, our haiku reviews. I made everyone wait more. Because I'm certainly not editing this.
Yeah. You've got to edit this, Petey. Jesus Christ.
You should edit it with a deep fake of like.
Do our Porcupine Tree podcast haikus. And
but yeah, we get to our haiku reviews. The moment we've all been waiting for, where we hit him with the 575. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno. Drew, what is your haiku?
Dystopic anger and a weird sense of self-worth. Beautifully sad.
That's very Porcupine Tree.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what is your haiku?
It's got funny vibes and a good amount of fuzz. On the uwoos. Or on uwoos. Sorry. Breaking the rules. Going free verse. Gonna be like our poet laureate Kaz. Come in here and
this album really messed you up, Brett.
Yeah, it
I'm so
messed
sorry.
me up.
I mean, I really like I was left with more questions than answers. And I don't know how long it's going to take before I actually know whether I enjoyed this.
Yes. My haiku, great songwriting and an engaging atmosphere, modern life on blast. And last but not least, David, what is your haiku?
Art pop for today. You can buy the things you like, but don't get taken.
Mm-hmm. And those are our thoughts on Steven Wilson's The Future Bites. And, those are our thoughts on Steven Wilson's The Future Bites. You can, of course, find it on our Spotify playlist. Unlike right now, last week's record, because of fucking Cacao M, they pulled the distributor of Dreamcatcher's album is strong arming Spotify. Spotify came into the Korean market and they have their own streamer there. So I'm like, and they freaking Thanos snapped half of K-pop off of Spotify, which is fascinating. But that tangent aside, just in case you want to know why it's not there, this album will be on our Spotify playlist, algorithm willing. Also on that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and it'll be provided by Brett. Brett, what have you got for next week?
Oh, I mean, I hope this is on Spotify. We're gonna have to hope, because guys, we're doing it. We're gonna listen to both the G side and the R side of Appetite for Destruction.
Mm-hmm. I have to see Guns N' Roses. The Guns and the Roses.
We have. I know that we have some opinions in this room. We can talk about this album and the fact that it has a G side and an R side.
Yes. But that'll be.
You just want me to get hated on the internet.
I mean, not everybody can, like, now that you're Silhouette Drew, like, you can get your snake dance going real good, and nobody will know who you are when you're doing your bad Axel, like, because like
a lot of our lighting is backlighting, and
yes.
That's how it works. I
was thinking about bringing down the ring light, but the ring light is all the way upstairs, and I'm lazy.
Oh, you could just like all you need to do is get like a light bulb and put some like you need to have like the Venetian blinds behind you and a vocoder and come in like this, and like, you know, like we're hearing the scoop
spoilers,
of Guns N' Roses spoilers. Yeah.
I can help you download VoiceMod. I'm sure there's a Mac version for it. I don't.
Sounded like fucking Corpse Husband.
Yes.
Or the Alexa that Petey can ask, hey, is play Appetite for Destruction? No, not the re-recorded version.
No.
Alexa, play Chinese Democracy.
Alexa, who is Buckethead?
Oh God, Alexa, no, stop.
No. That being said,
you deserve that.
That was voiced by thine own petard. The
petard's being foisted.
Yes. But yes, that will be next week. And this is this week, and you can of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at HBDBird, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at X. I'm at PD Rave. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. I'm working on having us have a full week schedule. Kind of have some more free time nowadays. So
The Cartoon Express.
But the main core schedule is still Tuesdays we do Dungeons and Dragons. Wednesdays we do Record Breakers live. We record live, where you can come hang out with us and discuss what we're talking about in the chat. We also do Space Truckin' on Thursdays.
Honk honk.
Where we're nowadays playing Starbound. As long as Xbox Live services stay up. The algorithm willing. We're playing that, and aside from that, we're also doing kind of like Let's Play series on Fridays, where we kind of go through the campaign of a single player game, some cool story driven game, and maybe some mess around on Mondays. But those 3 days are definitely the core schedule, and we have more around that. But yeah, the follow us on there on Twitch and YouTube and things like that.
What was that Twitch title again, Petey?
Rebelli TV, right here. If you're watching the video, it's right there behind me. Yeah, follow, like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Did we do the haikus?
Oh wait,
No.
no, we didn't do the haikus.
No.
That's why I was like, did I miss a meeting? Are we cutting the haikus now? Like, what's going on? But I didn't want to say anything because, like,
throw back to the days where I would forget haikus. Let's get down to the main event of the evening. Main event of the evening, where the moment we've all been waiting for.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.